Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. If you are new here and like what you see, please go ahead and subscribe for more. If you don't like what you see, then downvote the shit out of it and leave a scathing comment to tell me all about it. I really love to hear from you. I'm making this video because there's at least 2 of you coming to EQ2 for the first time. We have a new server, Kaladim. It's a TLE server, or Time Lock Expansion server, starting up on Saturday, the 16th of March. We will be starting with the vanilla experience of EQ2, and then we will be experiencing each new expansion as they released 4 months apart. So it's looking to be a good time. Should last for a couple years of really great expansions, and I'm really excited to be starting it. Our guild has already got over 20 people for our 24-man raids, and we're in a guild with another raid team that's got 20 people. So it's if you're down for some Drunken Friday shenanigans, please come hit up the community. I'll leave a link for our Discord down below. But yeah, join us on Kaladim Day 1. We're gonna be grouping. We're gonna be raiding. We're really laid back. We're really fun to be around. We've been together since day 1 of EQ2 launch in 2004. Some of us have obviously joined later, but yeah, we've been doing this for many years, and we just love it, and we're excited to start all over again. All right, and so a few things I'm going to cover on this video. What is EQ2? What you might expect on the TLE, and maybe I'll help give you some idea of what class you might want to play. That might be helpful to the server or a raid guild if you're into those sorts of things. First thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to download the game. You're going to have to go to you're going to have to go to their website, everquest2.com/home. You're going to have to download the game. It looks something like this. If down here is you click game info. After you log in and create an account, click download the game. Once you download the game, you're going to start the launcher. This is going to download some basic files, but something very important is make sure you click this little button right here. You won't see it on mine because I've already done it, but you want to go to select game version. Make sure it's US English, and there will be a checkbox here. It says something about full download or download the whole game. Make sure you check that button. It's going to give you about 20 to 30 gigs depending on exactly what it downloads, but you do not want to play on streamer mode and then try and download the game file assets every time you zone. It's just going to make your game and your experience miserable. I do not know why they allow that as an option. Do not choose it. Make sure you download the whole thing. Also, I'm going to leave links for these as well. DarqUI. The base UI is okay. I mean, you can do it, but you really get DarqUI. It's a complete UI overhaul, and it just makes the game so much amazing. But if you are intimidated by Dark, just get the EQ2 maps and use the base UI. I will be making videos for DarqUI hopefully before the server launches on Saturday, because once Saturday hits, I'm going to be going full bore. But I'm intending to have at least the DarqUI video out. I'm also going to make an ACT, it's Advanced Combat Tracker videos. That is actually what you need to download in order to parse in-game DPS, heals per second, etc. There's no in-game utility that tells you how well you're doing on the damage meters, so that is a separate thing, and I will leave links for that and eventually make a video. Alright, so once you have the game fully installed, you're going to get brought up. You're going to create a new account on the progression server, Kaladim. It's the best server it's going to be out there because it's going to be the most populated, at least in the lower, it's at least for the first couple months. Probably the first year. It's just going to be crazy going on over there. You're going to pick a race. There's not a lot of differences between the races in the long run. Now, in the short run, it's really, you have to play something that you can stand to look at. If you can't stand the way the character looks, you're not going to play it. You're not going to log in, and basically you're just going to be wasting your $15 a month. So make sure you pick a race that you can look at, for hours at a time, because the raids last for hours. But there are a few exceptions. Things like Dark Elf will give you the ability once a day to teleport to a group member in the same zone. I think Eurydites have that as well. And Gnomes allow you to repair your gear once a day, which is also actually pretty useful in the beginning because there are no easy ways to repair your gear while you're in a zone. So, I mean, besides that, I mean, you get the Fae and the RSI, they get floaty bits where you can jump really far, and you've got the Erican, which are basically the master race of the game, and luckily they are allowing us to start as Erican. That's what I will be playing, but for the most part, it really doesn't matter. I mean, if you're gonna play a tank and you want to be a main tank, do us all a favor, pick one of the taller races. Don't be running around as a gnome. We can't find you. We don't know where our tank is. That's really, I mean, that's just about it though. But there are a big difference when it comes to the classes. Now here are the 24 classes. I don't know if you guys can see this. Let's make this a little bit bigger for you. So here are the 24 classes, and they're broken down into 4 categories. You have tanks, healers, scouts, mages. I'm going to quickly go over these. If you are well familiar with the classes, feel free to jump ahead till you see this screen disappear. For those of you who are new to the game, these first 2 tanks are going to be your plate-wearing shield non-magic tanks. So basically, the ones who actually just use plain melee attacks. Guardian's going to be your more defensive, and then your Berserker's going to be your more offensive. Then you get into the 2 leather, like not agility because they are use strength, but they are kind of your dodgy kind of characters. Whereas the Guardians and Berserkers have to use more mitigation to actually reduce the number of damage they take by a percentage. Monks and Bruisers will actually, they do most of their tanking from avoiding getting hit altogether. And then you have your Paladins and Shadow Knights, which are your magical plate-wearing tanks. Now, they all have their strengths and weaknesses. Guardian's basically going to be your main tank, with some people using Berserkers. Their Brawlers they're useful. It depends on how well you play it. I've seen some Brawler tanks that are just outstanding. Your Paladin, your Shadow Knights are more midfield for mid people who have mid ability to tank. The Paladin, the Shadow Knight, they give you some toolkits to help you stay alive, to help heal yourself, and they do a fair amount of damage. So, but if you're looking to just be a main tank, you're gonna want to go Guardian. If you're looking to be useful to a raid, and not really tank, but you kind of want to tank on your off time, play a Brawler on the TLE servers. Every raid is going to bring at least 1, if not 2 Brawlers for their avoidance buff. They can actually help the main tank or the Paladin off tank actually not get hit as often. Alright, so you got your healers, you got your clerics, which is your Templar Inquisitor. Basically, your Templar that's all a Templar does, is healing and healing and healing and a little bit of DPS. Whereas the Inquisitor is about half and half. You know, it does really good healing, but it does really good damage, and it does pretty decent buffs. The Mystic and Defiler are your shaman, and they provide wards. Very, very useful. It actually is this type of healing that it doesn't even ever hit you. Like, it just hits the ward. Like, you don't even take damage. It's really awesome. They're really important. Fury and Warden, they both do heals over time. So whereas the first 4 healers try to prevent you from getting hit, or in the case of the clerics, when you do get hit, you proc a heal. The Fury and the Warden wait until you've gotten hit, and then they try to heal you back. So it's a little bit more reactive gameplay playing Fury and Warden. It's a little bit more proactive player playing the first 4. Both have their advantages and disadvantages. Warden and Fury tend to be much stronger at group heals, whereas the other 4 tend to be more heal the tank primarily and then worry about the rest of the group. So you'll see that I'll show you what a bare bones raid looks like just in a sec, so you'll kind of understand what I mean by the different kinds of heals. Then you have your scouts, your dirge and troubadour. These are your bard classes. They buff the group, and their DPS is pretty decent. Assassin ranger. Assassin is a melee and does really high single target damage. Ranger is ranged and does pretty good single target damage. Swashbuckler, really good at AoE damage. It also provides really good debuffs in the way that it debuffs the mob from doing a lot of damage, whereas the brigand debuffs the mob so it actually receives more damage. So those two are very important, as well as the first two are incredibly important on a raid, and you'll see that. Then you have your mages. The first two are chanters. These are basically your mana batteries for the group. They provide really good buffs for the group, and yeah, they're just, if you want to spot on a raid, if you want to spot in a group, play one of these two classes, and like, aside from being a healer or a tank, this is like literally the easiest way to get into a group. If you're a new player, play one of these two classes, or Dirge or Troubadour. These 4 classes right here will get you basically into a group and get you going until you learn the game and you want to play something else. Your summoner pet classes are the Necro Conjurer. These are also important on raids because they provide hearts and shards, which are little, like, basically mana potions that are for free. They're pretty good. Wizard, Warlock. Wizard does really good damage. Warlock does really good damage, but a wizard is more primarily single target, and a warlock is more primarily AE. So they have their advantages depending on which one you want to play. As far as what a raid looks like, this is what I start out as looking for a raid. Composition, obviously it can deviate from this. You have your main tank group. You're going to want a guardian. It's going to be hands down your best tank for raiding. Grouping, not so much. They're decent for grouping, but really for a raid, you want a guardian. And then you want the Templar Defiler combo. These two are just outstanding at keeping a tank alive. Then you're going to want Coercer, Dirge. This is going to help keep the Templar Defiler with power. It's also, the Dirge provides really good defensive buffs and hate buffs, and the Coercer also provides a good hate buff and some overall buffs for the group. And then the Assassin, it's high damage single target, but it also has a threat transfer that it can give to the Guardian, because the Guardian is going to want to get as much hate as possible. So this is a pretty standard main tank group. The only change that most people will make is to trade out an Assassin for a Warden, and this raid actually easily allows for that swap, where you'll swap the Warden in this group for the Assassin in this group, and you'll put the Assassin over here. That's a pretty common swap in a raid. In fact, some of the best things I like to do is have an Assassin who has a Warden alt, and then he can actually just swap to his alt for when the mob is just hitting way too hard and you want that extra healer in the main tank group. I mean, that's ideal. If you're an Assassin out there, make a Warden alt, make your raid leader happy. The off tank group, I usually go for Crusader. Sometimes people use Berserker. I choose Crusader because there are some fights, especially in the second expansion, that require one of each type of tank, where you have the Crusader and the Brawler as well. For the off-tank healers, Inquisitor, Mystic, I just find that their DPS buffs outweigh any other benefit. I mean, obviously you can swap this out for a Templar and this out for a Defiler, but I mean, really, this is what bare bones you go for. And then once again, Coercer, Dirge, because you do not want the off-tanks group to run out of power. And then the Swashbuckler for similar reasons as the Assassin, as the off-tank is usually picking up a bunch of adds, so the Swashbuckler can transfer hate as well to the Crusader. It will also AE, and it lowers the amount of damage that the adds are putting out to keep the off-tank group alive. It's really good. The melee group, you're going to go with Brawler. Mostly, you want at least one Brawler in the raid for, obviously, you got to have one kind of each tank, and you want the avoidance buff to then put on the main tank. Mystic Warden. The Warden mostly stays in this group when the Brawler is helping the off-tank other adds. So you want the double healer for the Brawler. If the guardian is taking away the warden, then the brawler probably won't be tanking, but still can with a decent mystic. Or you could swap it out for a defiler. In this group, you're going to want a chanter. I say chanter and not coercer because sometimes a good illusionist right here is amazing. And then once again, you want the dirge for the melee buffs and the brigand. The brigand is one of the most important classes to have in your raid. The brigand does really good DPS, but by debuffing the mob and allowing the entire raid's DPS go up, you're really going to want a solid brigand. However, I have never met a brigand who wasn't a crazy person. You might have better luck than I do, but every brigand I've ever met has been an absolute crazy person. If you're a brigand, I'm just going to assume you're a crazy person. I love you, and I want you in my raid, and please come join us. But yeah, I'm sorry about the luck of you being a crazy person. Finally, the mage group. You're going to want the Fury. The Fury has got the group heals. It's got a lot of spell damage. Fury can put out some serious DPS and then keep the group alive at the same time. Illusionist is just awesome for this group. It helps. It buffs all the mages. Troubadour buffs all the mages. The Necro Conjurer. You can swap out one of these for a Warlock. I wouldn't recommend it because the Necro Conjurer, at least in the last 2 TLEs, did out like crazy DPS unless they've been nerfed in the last year on the TLE servers, which they may have been. I've been trying out other games, but they were just insane DPS, and they gave out the hearts and shards for all of the healers. And when it comes to the last fight of Darathar being such a long fight, if not cheesed, then you're really going to want the Necro Conjurer to both be handing out shards and hearts. So, and then finally a wizard, because you just can't outparse a good wizard and a good mage group. He's just going to be hands down the #1 DPS. You don't want more than one because then you're losing buffs. Like, you got to have the illusionist, you got to have the troubadour, just to be giving buffs. So if you swap out a conjurer with a wizard or a necro with a wizard, sure, your whole raid is going to be doing more DPS, but without that extra mana regen that the conjurer and the necro both provide separately, you're just asking for problems. Now, it can be done, and we've done it. If you notice on here, there's no rangers or warlocks anywhere in this raid. If you are a masochist, please play a warden or play a warlock. I said warden, I'm sorry. Rangers or warlocks. If you're a masochist, play a ranger or a warlock, and just hope your guild loves you. That's all I have to say about that. Or be crazy good. If you're a crazy good ranger or crazy good warlock, then you're going to get invited regardless. I mean, there's not that much balance between the classes, but there is a lot of balance when it comes to skill level. Now, most of these, like I'm saying, the chanters and the bards, they're going to get invited for their class. I mean, that's just it. If you're a new person, play something that's just going to get you invited just for showing up. If you are an outstanding player, you can play whatever you want because you are going to go so far and above and beyond what a class brings. Then that's just, you do you. But yeah, like I said, this is just a basic bare bones. If I'm going to organize a raid and I don't know what boss we're fighting, this is going to be my standard. There are sometimes you have to have 2 healers in the mage group. I mean, just sometimes there's just so much damage, and you'll swap out one of these guys for an 8th healer. But once again, this is 3 tanks. So out of 24 spots, only 3 go to tanks. 6 go to healers. So that's a quarter. That's a full quarter. And then you got 4 bards, 4 chanters. You're not leaving very many spots for other things. Like, this is not as flexible as it looks. The only flexibility comes from replacing themselves, like a mystic to a defiler, an inquisitor to a templar, or an inquisitor to a warden sometimes. But yeah, there's just not that much flexibility as far as without knowing how good the player is. When I pick a class, I just pick the class. So yeah, hopefully this helped you understand what kind of class you wanted to play going into the TLE. If you have any more questions, you can hit me up on Discord. I'd be happy to help in any way I can. But yeah, that's it for today. good luck and have fun. I hope to see everybody on Saturday. I heard the server is actually opening up at 10 a.m. Pacific, and I'm looking forward to it. Talk to you guys later.